Grief hung heavy as the Smith family tearfully buried their beloved dog Max in the backyard. The morning took an eerie turn, however, when the father was awakened 2 nights later by the unmistakable sound of barking echoing through the house. Bewildered and worried, he hesitantly followed the sound, only to see a sight that defied all logic. Patrick Smith and his young son Billy were standing at the top of the stairs, feeling almost too scared to go downstairs. Both of them had been awoken by a very familiar barking sound. A bark they must have heard hundreds of nights before. It never scared them once, but this time was very different. Mainly because the barking sounded unmistakably like their beloved dog Max, whom they had buried just days prior. Patrick's mind was racing a million miles an hour, trying to find an explanation for what the hell could be happening. The only thing he could think of was that there had to be a different dog downstairs. But how it was possible that that animal had gotten into their house and that it sounded exactly like Max was completely beyond him. Patrick was thinking back to 2 days ago, a day that had put the family in a state of grief ever since, as it was the day that they had to put their beloved dog Max into the ground. The family had seen the health of the aging animal decline for a little while by that point. And even though he was not exactly a senior yet, he was not a young pup anymore either. But none of them had expected things to decline that fast for Max. They were planning on visiting very soon to see if there was anything actually wrong with Max. But they found out the hardest way that there was very much something wrong with Max, as that morning when they all got out of bed and made their way downstairs, they found Max lying motionless in the garden. Billy thought that Max just had to be sleeping in that day, and Patrick of course tried to reassure his son that this was the case. But deep down, he was already fearing the worst. He felt incredibly guilty that he had not brought Max to the vet sooner, and when he got up close and personal with the family dog, his worries were quickly confirmed to him. There was no doubt in his mind that Max had passed away. The loss of his pet hurt Patrick deeply, but he also understood that this was a very important moment for him as a single parent. This was going to be the first time that Billy would have to deal with death, and it came out of absolutely nowhere for the young boy. He had not prepared his soul for this in any way yet. So Patrick went in complete father mode. He decided not to lie to Billy about this at all. The truth was going to be hard to deal with, but deal with it was Billy going to have to. That would be the best way to learn for him. Patrick took his son apart and told him the truth. Max was no longer with them and, as expected, the poor boy busted out into tears. Patrick and Billy had a long conversation about death and all the consequences of it. Billy had not experienced death before, but he did know loss. His mother and Patrick's ex-wife Molly had walked out on the family when Billy was about 2 years old. She could not deal with being a mother anymore and wanted to get her life back. And so she left, and Patrick did not try to stop her. Ever since then, he had been a single father, and even though it was hard at times, the pair of them made it work. But this was probably by far the most difficult thing they had to deal with ever since Molly left. After the long conversation about death, Patrick got a large wooden box out of the garage and started to dig a hole in the garden to bury Max in. But because of the size of the box, he needed to dig such a big hole that it quickly became clear that he would not be able to do it alone. So Patrick decided to call in the help of some of his neighbors, who had no problem lending a hand. And except for one strange request from one of the men, if he could see the dog, everything went over smoothly, and Max was buried before sundown. Late into the night, the house was suddenly filled with a sound of barking, loud and clear. Patrick and Billy, half asleep, exchanged puzzled glances. Was this a dream? The familiar bark of Max pierced through the silence of their home, a sound they thought they'd never hear again. Both of them sat up, the confusion evident in their eyes as they listened closely to the echoing barks. With a mix of hesitation and urgency, Patrick led the way downstairs, with Billy close behind. The house, usually welcoming, now seemed like a maze of shadows and whispers. They moved from room to room, the barking guiding them, a beacon in the dark. The dim moonlight casting long shadows added to the mystery, making every familiar corner seem unfamiliar, and every step a journey into the unknown. Reaching the living room, they stopped dead in their tracks. There, in the middle of the room, was Max, very much alive, his tail wagging furiously. Patrick blinked, disbelieving, as Max ran towards them, barking joyfully. The sight was so unexpected, so surreal, that for a moment they could only stand there, stunned, as Max danced around them, as alive as ever. The wave of emotions that followed was overwhelming. From the depths of grief to the peaks of joy, Patrick and Billy found themselves laughing and crying all at once. They knelt down, hugging Max, feeling his warm fur, and listening to his familiar barks. The reality of their loss had been so heavy, but now, in this unbelievable moment, joy flooded in, washing away the sorrow. As they embraced Max, the room was filled with a lightness, a happiness that seemed to push away the darkness of the night. The barking, a sound of routine, now felt like a melody of hope. Patrick and Billy, with Max back in their lives, felt a sense of wonder and happiness that seemed to promise that this night was not the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary. In the dim glow of the living room, Max leaped into Patrick's arms, his tail a blur of motion. Patrick, barely catching his breath from the surprise, hugged Max tightly, feeling the warmth of his fur. Billy, hearing the commotion, wiped away his tears and raced downstairs. The sight of Max, wagging his tail with vigor, made him pause in wonder at the top of the stairs. As Billy joined Patrick and Max on the living room floor, the air filled with their laughter and Max's joyful barks. They took turns petting Max, marveling at the feel of him, alive and well. Max, in turn, showered them with affection, licking their faces and hands, his excitement uncontrollable. The room, once a place of sorrow, now echoed with the sounds of their reunion. The three of them, Patrick, Billy, and Max, huddled together in a tight embrace, a circle of love and disbelief. Max, snuggled in between them, seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, his barks turning into soft whimpers of contentment. They sat there for what felt like an eternity, holding on to each other and the joy of being reunited. The living room, lit only by the moonlight filtering through the windows, became a sanctuary of happiness. Their laughter and Max's barks seemed to fill every corner, pushing away the shadows. The cold, distant night outside was forgotten, replaced by the warmth of their unexpected joy. The room felt alive, vibrant with the energy of their love and the miracle of Max's return. As their initial shock and joy began to settle, questions started to form in Patrick's mind. How had Max come back to them? What had happened since that sorrowful day of the burial? But looking at Billy's smiling face, lit by the soft moonlight, he decided those questions could wait. For now, the only thing that mattered was the incredible joy of having Max back. The night promised more stories to tell, but those were tales for the light of day. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Patrick, with Max by his side, ventured into the garden. They approached the burial site, the grass still wet with morning dew. Patrick expected to find signs of disturbance, but to his astonishment, the earth lay undisturbed, as if untouched since the day they buried Max. The mystery of Max's return loomed larger with every undisturbed clod of soil. Determined to find answers, Patrick decided to visit the vet. With Max trotting beside him, they arrived at the clinic just as it opened. The vet, surprised to see Max in good spirits, scanned his microchip. The beep of the scanner confirmed Max's identity, leaving the vet baffled but declaring Max in excellent health. This visit added another layer of mystery but brought them no closer to understanding how Max had returned. Standing outside the vet's office, Patrick pondered the next steps. The burial site was undisturbed, and the vet had confirmed Max's good health. Questions swirled in his mind. Had they buried another dog by mistake? How could Max have possibly returned from the grave? The reality of the situation seemed to slip further away the more he delved into the mystery of Max's miraculous return. The vet's confirmation of Max's health was a bittersweet moment for Patrick. It reassured him that Max was indeed healthy, but it solidified the enigma surrounding Max's disappearance and return. As they left the clinic, Patrick held Max's leash tightly, a symbol of their unbroken bond. Yet the mystery of what had happened remained as opaque as ever, with no clear path forward. Back home, Patrick revisited the burial site, this time scrutinizing every inch for clues that he might have missed. But the earth told no tales, and the grass whispered no secrets. The lack of disturbance at the burial site, coupled with the vet's findings, left Patrick with a deepening sense of bewilderment. With more questions than answers, he realized that the mystery of Max's return was far from solved, prompting him to consider possibilities he had never imagined before. Patrick paced the living room, Max following closely behind, sensing his unease. He couldn't shake the haunting thought that they might have buried Max alive. He went over every detail of that day. The weight of the shovel, the sound of the dirt hitting the box, searching his memory for anything that might have been amiss. But everything had seemed so final, so certain at the time. The contrast between believing Max was gone forever and seeing him now, vibrant and full of life, was jarring. Patrick looked at Max, playing with a toy in the corner of the room, and felt a chill. How could a dog they had mourned, a dog they had buried with heavy hearts, be here now, wagging his tail as if nothing had happened? Patrick revisited the burial site, kneeling beside it, examining the earth and the box they had used. It was intact, just as they had left it, without any signs of disturbance. How, then, could Max have escaped? The mystery deepened with each unanswered question, each theory forming and dissolving in Patrick's mind, leaving him more perplexed than ever. In the quiet of the evening, Patrick sat at the kitchen table, jotting down every theory that came to mind on a piece of paper. But none of them seemed plausible. Max couldn't have dug himself out. The grave had been undisturbed. No theory could adequately explain the situation, leaving Patrick in a state of confusion. His notes a testament to the puzzle that Max's return had become. The reality of Max's presence, so tangible and yet so inexplicable, left Patrick wrestling with a mystery that seemed to defy all logic. He watched Max sleep peacefully on the living room rug, the gentle rise and fall of his chest, a comforting yet bewildering sight. The mystery of Max's return, confirmed by the vet, remained unsolved, a riddle wrapped in the eerie and the inexplicable, urging Patrick to keep searching for answers. Under the gray light of dawn, Patrick, with shovel in hand, stood at the edge of the garden, Max watching curiously from a distance. With a deep breath, he plunged the shovel into the earth, the physical act of digging mirroring the turmoil inside him. Each shovel full of dirt felt like a step closer to the answers he so desperately sought, the morning air filled with the sound of his determination. As Patrick dug deeper, the labor became more than just physical. It was a reflection of his quest for closure. Sweat mixed with the morning dew, his muscles ached, but he didn't stop. With each scoop of soil, he hoped to uncover some clue, some piece of evidence that would explain Max's miraculous return. The garden, silent except for the rhythmic sound of digging, became a sanctuary of search and hope. The solitary figure of Patrick digging in the garden symbolized his journey through the confusion and grief that had clouded his mind since Max's return. This act of exhuming the burial site was his way of confronting the mystery head-on, driven by a need to find peace in the chaos. The garden, once a place of sorrow, now held the possibility of answers and solace. With each shovelful of earth, Patrick felt the weight of the unanswered questions pressing down on him. His actions, driven by a mix of desperation and hope, were a testament to the depth of his need to understand the impossible. The physical strain of digging mirrored the emotional struggle he faced, a man on a mission to uncover the truth behind a mystery that seemed to defy explanation. As Patrick neared the depth at which the box was buried, his movements became more deliberate, more careful. This act of unearthing was not just about retrieving the box, but about facing the emotional turmoil that Max's disappearance and unexpected return had caused. Each layer of soil removed brought Patrick closer not only to the physical box, but to confronting the events that had shaken his world. Patrick, kneeling beside the now open box, stared in disbelief. It was empty. No sign of Max. The mystery of Max's disappearance and return deepened, leaving Patrick with more questions than answers. He examined the box carefully, noting its condition and the space where Max should have been. The emptiness of the box in the quiet morning garden added a chilling silence to the mystery. As Patrick inspected the box further, he noticed something odd about the nails sealing it. They were cheaper, different from what he remembered using. This detail seemed out of place, hinting at someone else's involvement. Patrick's mind raced as he considered the possibility of human intervention. The discovery of these nails turned the simple act of exhuming into a clue-laden investigation. With the discovery of the nails, Patrick felt a shift in his role. No longer just a concerned owner, he became a detective piecing together a puzzle. He started to look around the garden, searching for more clues, anything that might explain the tampering with Max's grave. Each step he took was deliberate, each glance around the garden filled with purpose and a newfound determination. The nails, once an overlooked detail, now stood as silent witnesses to the mystery. Patrick pondered their significance, realizing they suggested a narrative far different from what he had initially believed. This small clue led him to reconsider everything he thought he knew about Max's disappearance. The garden, once a place of sorrow, now held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Patrick, with the box beside him, made a decision. The strange nails were the first tangible clue he had, and he was determined to follow where they led. His search for answers transformed into a quest for the truth. With a renewed sense of purpose, Patrick planned his next steps, knowing that solving the mystery would require looking beyond the garden and into the actions of those around him. Patrick set out with a simple request for nails, visiting his neighbors under the warm afternoon sun. He approached each house with a friendly demeanor, casually mentioning his need for nails for a project he was working on. As he conversed with each neighbor, he watched their expressions closely, hoping to catch any hint of recognition or discomfort that might suggest a connection to the mystery of Max's grave. With each interaction, Patrick became more adept at steering the conversation subtly, mentioning the recent strange events in passing. He noted who seemed too quick to change the subject or who offered too much sympathy without prompting. These casual exchanges on porches and over fences became critical moments of observation. Each neighbor's response, a potential piece of the puzzle Patrick was desperately trying to solve. Patrick found himself navigating a delicate web of community relations, balancing his need for answers with the necessity of maintaining neighborly ties. He was mindful to keep his inquiries light, blending them into conversations about daily life and local news. This careful dance of questioning allowed him to probe without raising alarms, keeping his suspicions hidden behind a veneer of casual curiosity. To his neighbors, Patrick was just another resident dealing with home repairs. But in reality, he was a detective in disguise, scouring for clues. He paid close attention to every word and gesture, mentally logging anything that seemed out of place. His seemingly innocent quest for nails was a strategic move in his investigation, a way to gather information without revealing his true intentions. Through his subtle inquiries, Patrick began to sense the undercurrents of tension and secrecy within the neighborhood. Small comments and offhand remarks hinted at unresolved issues and hidden dynamics among the residents. Each conversation brought him a step closer to understanding the complex web of relationships and events that could hold the key to unraveling the mystery of Max's inexplicable return. Patrick, with determination etched on his face, approached Eric's house. He recalled Eric's odd questions about Max's burial and the mismatched nails, which had set this confrontation into motion. Knocking on Eric's door, Patrick rehearsed his questions, ready to confront the neighbor who had shown an unusual interest in Max's grave, his mind racing with possibilities of what this conversation might unearth. As Eric opened the door, the tension between the two men was palpable. Patrick wasted no time, asking Eric directly about the nails and his presence at Max's burial. Eric's initial confusion quickly turned to defensiveness, setting the stage for a charged exchange. Patrick, struggling to keep his emotions in check, pressed for answers, the air thick with accusation and unease. This confrontation with Eric marked a pivotal point in Patrick's quest for the truth. Each question Patrick asked was loaded with the weight of his suspicions, demanding clarity amidst the confusion. Eric, taken aback by the intensity of the interrogation, found himself on the defensive, trying to piece together answers that could satisfy Patrick's growing demands for the truth. As their conversation unfolded in Eric's front yard, it became more than just an exchange between two neighbors. It was a moment that tested the very fabric of their community. The clash of Patrick's pursuit of answers and Eric's defensiveness highlighted the intricate balance between personal actions and their impact on communal ties. This encounter was a reflection of the broader tensions and challenges faced by the neighborhood. Emotional turmoil, Patrick found himself caught in a storm of emotions as he faced Eric. The need for answers collided with a maze of guilt, anger, and the quest for understanding. This confrontation was not just about solving the mystery of Max's return. It was also a moment of reckoning for Patrick, as he navigated the complex emotions that the situation had stirred within him, each demanding to be acknowledged and understood. Patrick stepped into Eric's home, the air heavy with the smell of wood and varnish. Surrounded by taxidermy projects, Eric began to unravel the story of his involvement. With each word, the clutter around them seemed to mirror the complexity of Eric's actions. He confessed to a fascination with taxidermy that had led him down an ethically dubious path, one that inadvertently involved Max. As Eric spoke, it became clear his venture into taxidermy was marred by guilt. He attempted to justify his actions, explaining the allure of mastering the craft, but his remorse was palpable. The room, filled with the evidence of his hobby, served as a backdrop to the complex emotions Eric grappled with, his words revealing a man conflicted by his curiosity and the consequences of his actions. Eric's struggle with the moral implications of his hobby came to the forefront as he detailed how his curiosity had pushed him to cross boundaries he once respected. Patrick listened, trying to understand how Eric's ambition led to a moment that entangled Max in a web of ethical dilemmas. The conversation turned a critical eye toward the line between passion and ethical responsibility. The confession sheds light on Eric's internal battle, portraying him as a man torn between his passion for taxidermy and the guilt over how it intersected with Max's mysterious return. His words painted a picture of a hobby that had consumed him, blurring the lines of right and wrong, leading to actions he now regretted. The taxidermy around them stood as silent witnesses to Eric's turmoil. Eric's admission not only provided clues to the enigma of Max's disappearance, but also exposed the depth of his internal conflict. Caught between his dedication to his craft and the guilt over the unintended consequences, Eric's story was one of passion that had overstepped moral boundaries. Patrick, absorbing every word, saw the man behind the mystery, understanding the complexity of human nature Eric embodied. Eric, amidst his cluttered workspace, revealed the turning point of the tale. His discovery that Max was not dead when buried but barely alive. This confession transformed Eric from a mere hobbyist into a lifesaver. As he spoke, Patrick's eyes widened, absorbing the gravity of the situation. Eric detailed how he had carefully dug up the box, finding Max weak but breathing, a moment that shifted the narrative dramatically. Eric's initial guilt over his curiosity turned into a sense of responsibility for Max's well-being. He described how he nursed Max back to health, feeding him and providing warmth. This act of care marked a significant change in Eric, from perpetrator to protector. Patrick listened, torn between disbelief and gratitude, as Eric recounted the days of Max's recovery in his makeshift sanctuary. Patrick found himself in an emotional whirlwind, grappling with the reality that Max's return was no miracle but the result of Eric's intervention. Relief that Max was alive mingled with disturbance over the circumstances of his survival. As Eric continued, Patrick's emotions churned, a mix of anger, confusion, and an emerging sense of gratitude towards Eric for saving Max. The revelation of Max's survival and Eric's role presented Patrick with a complex emotional and moral puzzle. He struggled to reconcile his feelings of relief at Max's return with the ethical questions raised by Eric's actions. This conflict stirred deep within Patrick as he weighed his gratitude for Max's life against the unsettling methods of his return. Max's eventual escape from Eric's care and return to his family symbolized a journey of resilience and unexpected paths of love and care. Patrick, reflecting on this twist of fate, found himself confronting a spectrum of emotions. The joy of having Max back was now intertwined with a new understanding of the bonds that connect them, a testament to the unpredictable ways in which care and responsibility can manifest. After learning the full story from Eric, Patrick made a thoughtful decision not to pursue legal action against him. Understanding the crucial role Eric played in saving Max, he chose to focus on the joy of having Max back rather than seeking retribution. This decision was shared in a family meeting with Billy, where they discussed the importance of Max's well-being over all else. With Max safely at home, the peculiar circumstances of his return began to fade away. Patrick and Billy spent the day playing with Max in the garden, reveling in the simple pleasure of throwing a ball and watching him chase it with the same vigor as before. Their laughter and Max's joyful barks filled the air, a clear sign that happiness had once again taken root in their home. Patrick explained to Billy the complex situation with Eric and how it led to Max's return. Together, they agreed that forgiveness was the best path forward. This conversation happened over dinner, with Max sitting by their side, occasionally offering a paw as if to participate. It was a moment of teaching and learning for Billy, understanding that sometimes forgiveness is more powerful than holding on to anger. The ordeal of Max's disappearance and miraculous return brought Patrick and Billy closer together. They found themselves sharing stories of Max's antics, both old and new, while sitting in the living room with Max curled up beside them. This experience highlighted the resilience of their family and the unbreakable bond they shared, reinforced by the trials they had overcome together. The evening found Patrick sitting on the porch, reflecting on the entire experience. He thought about the importance of compassion, forgiveness, and the complexities of ethical decisions. With Max lying peacefully at his feet, Patrick considered how this unusual situation had taught them invaluable lessons about love, understanding, and the capacity to navigate moral complexities with a compassionate heart.